all of the getting benched, the funny lineups. They got her playing small forward. It did not matter. You know why? You can't stop God's work. It was written. It was written. This is God's work.
Caitlin Clark's MVP win tells an incredible story. After spending 8 months away from competitive basketball and starting the tournament with 3 games on the bench, expectations were uncertain. The coaching staff kept adjusting the lineup, leaving fans watching closely and wondering how things would unfold. Despite all of that, once the tournament concluded and the votes were counted, Clark still walked away with the MVP trophy. Critics had the entire tournament to come up with arguments against her performance, but in the end, they had nothing to say. Do you think Caitlin Clark winning MVP after such a long break and limited early playing time is the ultimate response to her doubters? Or could there be an even bigger statement ahead? Share your thoughts below.
They mad. They big mad. They are flaming right now. Caitlin Clark, in her return to basketball, like 8 months off, all these injuries, all of this stuff, the girl shows up and wins MVP.
Let's look at the situation for what it really is. Caitlin Clark took 8 months away from competitive basketball, which is far from a typical short break between seasons or a minor injury absence. An 8-month gap is long enough for any player to lose game shape, rhythm, and the natural feel that only comes from real competition. Even for elite athletes, coming back after such a long time is never easy. Rust is real, the adjustment period is real, and the doubts about whether a player can return to peak form are completely valid. What makes Clark's performance so impressive is how she responded to all of those challenges. Instead of struggling, she led the entire FIBA Women's World Cup qualifying tournament in assists, averaged 11.6 points per game as Team USA's second leading scorer, and led her team in efficiency. She also finished with the best plus-minus on the roster and ultimately walked away with the MVP trophy.
Here standing in front of us, and the TISO MVP of the...
What more could you expect from a comeback like this? Caitlin Clark entered the tournament coming off the bench in the first 3 games, and critics felt they had every reason to doubt her. They pointed to her 8-month absence, questioning whether she could quickly regain her rhythm and perform at a high level. Her early bench role only added to that narrative, with many seeing it as a sign that she might not be fully ready. Even the coaching staff's decision not to start her right away seemed to support those concerns. All of this created a strong argument that the MVP would go to someone who had been playing consistently, rather than a player returning from such a long break. It sounded reasonable at the time, and it gave doubters plenty to hold on to. But once the tournament unfolded, that entire narrative quickly lost its strength. Clark's performances steadily answered every question, and by the end, the doubts that once seemed valid were no longer part of the conversation.
Everybody hands go up, and they say yeah, and they say yeah. And they stay there.
They say the story really begins with the assists, and that's exactly where Caitlin Clark separates herself from everyone else. Averaging 6.4 assists per game and leading the entire tournament is not something that happens by luck or by accident. It comes from a deep understanding of the game, seeing plays develop faster than others, making quick and accurate decisions, and consistently setting up teammates in perfect scoring positions. This level of playmaking is a rare skill, and it doesn't just disappear after 8 months away from basketball. It also isn't affected by coming off the bench instead of starting, which makes her performance even more impressive. When you compare her to other top players in the tournament, the gap becomes even more clear. Paige Bueckers was not among the top assist leaders. Kelsey Plum didn't dominate in playmaking either, and although Ryan Howard delivered strong scoring performances, her assist numbers were not at the same level. Looking at the full picture and comparing every player in the tournament, Clark stands at the top by a clear margin. That difference in playmaking makes the MVP decision straightforward and fully deserved.
Caitlin Clark is officially the MVP of the FIBA Women's World Cup qualifier tournament that was just held in Puerto Rico. Team USA went undefeated. And it's kind of crazy because Caitlin Clark actually only started one game in this entire tournament, but clearly she had the greatest impact. The coach at times was also playing her in like the 3-4 position, which is so wild. She's a true point guard, and literally everyone does better when she is running the point. And she led the team in assists per game with 6.4 per game. And she also led the team in efficiency at a 14.6, which is something that FIBA uses, the WNBA and NBA don't. But essentially, it's a math equation that figures out your efficiency on the court.
The plus-minus statistic alone deserves to be highlighted because it is perhaps the most telling evidence against the critics who spent the tournament trying to minimize Caitlin Clark's performance. She recorded a cumulative plus 104 across 5 games, meaning that every time she was on the court, Team USA outperformed their opponents by 104 more points than when she was off. This wasn't per game, it was across the entire tournament. Remarkably, 3 of those games started without her in the lineup, as the coaching staff experimented with different starting combinations and offensive configurations. Yet a consistent pattern emerged. The team's performance improved the more Clark was involved. Her first start against New Zealand produced a 55-point blowout, the second largest margin of victory in the tournament, showing just how directly her presence influenced Team USA's success. The connection between Clark running the offense from tip-off and the team performing at peak efficiency is no longer a theory. It's evident in the box scores of all 5 games. Coming back from 8 months away is not only a physical challenge but a mental one as well. The rhythm of competitive basketball, the ability to read and react quickly, handling live defensive pressure, and the confidence to take risks in transition, all of these require actual game experience, which cannot be replicated in training. Clark returned leaner, quicker, and more fluid than she appeared in the previous season. Her time off had clearly been used not only for recovery, but to reset her body, making her even more effective. Signature moves like her logo three-pointers, behind-the-back ball handling, and full-court passes came back immediately, all in her first 5 games against professional international competition. While the lineup uncertainty remained, she didn't know from game to game whether she would start or come off the bench. The fan vote subplot added drama, with FIA running a public poll that became chaotic due to suspicious spikes in votes for other candidates, sparking accusations of automated voting. But the official MVP award was never determined by the fan poll. It was based entirely on performance over 5 games. When the announcement came, Clark was named MVP of the FIBA Women's Basketball World Cup qualifying tournament, and there was no credible argument against it. While players like Paige Buchers and Ryan Howard